everybody, it's Janae Canis. Welcome back to my kitchen for some lectin-free solutions. Today we're going to make a really yummy lentil mushroom millet burger. This is actually the second weekend of shelter in place, so I'm trying to go through the pantry and find things that I think most of you have on hand. And if you don't have some of them, I have a lot of different alternatives. So don't get frightened if we go through the ingredient list and you're missing things, because there are a lot of different ways to make these burgers. They're really tasty. They're great for your family. This recipe will actually feed 8. And if that's too many for you, you can either cut the recipe in half, or you can go ahead and make the 8 patties up and freeze part of them. They freeze really well, and it's very easy to defrost them and pop them right into the frying pan. So let's get going on the ingredient list. What we're first going to do is make a paste, and for that we need 2 cups of cooked lentils, 2 tablespoons of tahini, 3 to 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and 2 teaspoons of miso. Now, a lot of you I know won't have tahini, and you probably won't have miso. So as an alternative to that, these are all going to be binding agents. We're going to make a thick paste to mix all these other ingredients into. So as a binder, you can use egg, or another thing that people often use for these veggie burgers is mayonnaise for a binder, and that works well too because it's a combination of egg and oil. So don't get scared if you don't have those. Really, the tahini adds a little bit of nutty flavor, and the miso is salty. So you'll just have to add a little bit more salt when you add your spices instead of the small amount that I have used over here. Then after we make one other thing I wanted to tell you, if you have no lentils at all, this is what we're using today, is the yellow lentils. They cook pretty fast. So you have to be careful of that because you don't want them to be too soft for your burger. So if you don't like lentils, if you don't have lentils, you can use any type of canned beans. So you're going to have 2 cups of beans that will go into making the paste, and then you'll have a cup of beans that are going to get stirred in. Actually, with the beans, we'll chop them up a little bit so that you have more texture in your burger. Some of these veggie burgers are made where they just grind everything up to a mush, and they don't have any texture. They're not really very good, so we're not going to do that. Anyway, let's get started, and I'll show you how easy this is, and if I think of other alternatives along the way, I'll mention them to you as we go. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to use a really small KitchenAid or Cuisinart mixer that's tiny. But you know what? If you don't have one of these, all you have to do is get a potato or rice masher and just mash these things up, all these ingredients, and it works just as well. So first we're going to put in the 2 cups of cooked lentils, 2 teaspoons of miso, 2 tablespoons of tahini, and we'll start with this is 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. We're going to start with 2, about half of it first, and see how we go. We don't want this to be too dry, but we don't want it too wet either. It's incorporating pretty nicely. Let me just take a look at it. I think we could use it's a pretty thick paste. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more, maybe another tablespoon of the olive oil. So that, for me, that's going to be about 3 tablespoons. Smells good already. And this doesn't have to be, it's fine if it has chunks in it. It's not going to make any difference. It doesn't have to be a complete paste. All right, now this is what this looks like. Now we're going to take this out of this little food processor. get all those good bits. Looks like a little bit of my tahini didn't mix all the way up, but we'll get that. It's not a problem. This is a little bit thick. I'll probably end up adding the other tablespoon of olive oil to loosen it up a little bit, but I'd rather start out with it a little thick and not have to add too much other binder. I should have had a spatula. Okay, that'll be good. Now, you can see it's a pretty thick paste. So I am going to add that other tablespoon of olive oil. So that is 4 total. And that loosens it up quite a bit. Now if you need more than 4, you know, you never know how the starch is going to be in these lentils. The first ones that I made were with green lentils, and they're not quite as starchy. I wasn't able to buy any of those, so we ended up with yellow today, but that just shows you how versatile the recipe is. You can use really any of them. You just have to watch the cook time so it doesn't get too mushy. Now to this, I'm going to add the spices now. I've got a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt because I had the miso and that's salty. And then I have a half a teaspoon of cumin and a half a teaspoon of toasted paprika. So we'll add all that in now. Put this under my bowl so it holds better. There we go. I know it smells good, Molly, doesn't it? Okay, then we have 1 cup of lentils that are not pulverized. Start mixing those in. Molly likes these. Okay, Molly, you can have some later when we're done. You need to go lay down. Then we have, this is the other alternative piece. I've got a half a cup of chopped mushrooms. Now, mushrooms give the burger a really nice meaty texture, but I know not everybody likes mushrooms, or maybe you don't have mushrooms. So there are several alternatives to this. You could actually take Brussels sprouts and run them through your food processor. You could use chopped cabbage. You could use grated carrot. Anything with a little bit of texture works really well. You could even use the stems of broccoli. So all in all, whatever substitute you make for the mushrooms, you want 1 cup of that. So put the mushrooms in now, and they're just roughly chopped. You didn't do the chopping. I don't know what you have to say about it. You need to go lay down. Okay, and as you can see, we still have a kind of a thick paste. It's all incorporating together. Now we've got a cup of cooked millet. That's next. We have just about everything combined. We still need to add a little bit of cassava flour to help it stick together and hold together when we make the patties. Shh, Molly, be a good girl. You're not a very good sous chef today. You're supposed to be quiet and help. Okay, we're just about there. And you can see that it's thick enough. The idea is that you want to take this together and have it form in a patty in your hand, which this is doing, and it's staying together really well. That's what you want. Okay, so now what we're going to do is move this over to the frying pan, and I'll show you how they fry up and how we're going to serve them. All right, while we're waiting for those burgers to crisp up, I made patties out of the rest of them, and what I'll do with this is put it in the freezer and flash freeze it for about an hour, and then I will individually wrap each one of them with saran, put it in another freezer bag, and then they're ready to go. All you have to do is thaw them out and pop them into the frying pan, and you have a meal all ready. Now we're going to make some nice little sandwiches out of those, and I think they're just about ready. So let me move these out of the way. And I made some almond psyllium rolls today, and we're going to use those for the sandwiches, along with the homemade mustard. This is really great. It's simple to make, and it's made with whole yellow mustard seeds, and they're really, really good. All right, let me grab the burgers. Okay, the sliders are ready, the lentil sliders. These are the perfect size for these little rolls. And as I mentioned before, I have some homemade mustard that we made last week that is really yummy. We're going to top those with some of it. You can see it's nice and thick and has whole mustard seeds. We're going to put a little bit of that on the top of these. Nobody wants mayo around here, so it's just going to be a mustard. So we'll dress that up like that. And then we'll put the lids on. Put a fancy little toothpick in there. These are some I brought from Thailand that have shells on them. And then we have some homemade sauerkraut. And as I mentioned before, the sauerkraut recipe is also on my YouTube page or channel. I always get that mixed up. Anyway, one other thing before I go that I wanted to mention, since we were working with dry lentils, 1 cup of dry lentils cooked in the pressure cooker, the Instant Pot, gives you 3 cups of cooked lentils, and that's exactly what you need for this recipe, unless you're going to cut it in half. I hope you give it a try. If you have any questions about it, just send me a comment, and while you're here, please like and subscribe the video so we can make more of these for you. Thanks for checking in, and good luck to all of you. Here comes Molly. Here she comes.